USA nationals have been and gone. Jhonatan Rivas is out of the Tokyo 96 category. Arley Mendez gets popped for marijuana. And a reminder that the elite bar is still in stock. Now, just a very quick reminder that this episode is sponsored by the Weightlifting House wrist straps. We've sold a lot of these. We've had incredible reviews from everyone who's had them. Nothing but positive feedback so far. And every detail of these wrist straps, down to the material of the stitching, the style of the stitching, is all centered towards making sure that these are incredibly durable for long-term training. Speaking of great reviews, the Elite Barbell, this bar that I have right here, is still on sale. Now, if you are a gym owner, we're going to be running some elite deals on the Elite Bar over this July period as a sort of celebration of the Olympics. You want to make sure that with the rush of attention that's going to be headed towards weightlifting over this Olympic period, that your gym is ready, kitted out for the influx of, I guess, weightlifting noobs who want to take part in the sport for the very first time. So if you want a proper weightlifting bar, something at that elite tier, then head over to weightliftinghouse.com and just get in touch with us. Reach out, send a message to Nick. What's your email? Nick@weightliftinghouse.com or support@weightliftinghouse.com. Dan at weightliftinghouse.com. You could even try that one. And we will help you out with a great barbell deal for your gym. So USA Nationals came and went over the last couple of weeks. What I think was most interesting was the senior national championships rather than the various age group championships. So I'm going to talk about some of that. I'm not going to go through every single category. That would take far too long, and you can find the results. I'll put a link down below so you can check out the results. But I'm just going to look at the top 10 athletes on the men's and the women's side by Sinclair and run through some of those very quickly. As always, guys, there are timestamps down below, so you can you can watch either the USA Nationals, some other lifts, or go through one of the, I think we have 5 interesting news stories if you just have specific interests in what's going on. So on the women's side, at number 10, 87 kilo category from Catalyst Athletics, we had Laura Alexander. She went 103-134 for 237 total. At number 9, Sarah Wright from, I think the gym is called maybe Rising Strength. I'll just check that quickly. No, my bad, it's Rising Tide Weightlifting. 78.97 at 49. Then over to Cal Strength, we saw Kelly Wild. We've done a podcast with her in the past if you want to check that out. 59 kilo weightlifter, she took gold in that category despite going, I think, just 3 for 6 or 2 for 6 even. She still was able to win. 85-115, 200 kilo total. At number 6, Maria Park from Pittsburgh Barbell at 71 kilos, 101-123, 224 kilo total. And then again from Cal Strength, and I think we've done a podcast with her as well, at least she's in some vlogs, Madison Pennell competed at 49, 80 kilos in the snatch, 102 in the clean and jerk, which I think she still managed, where did she place? Second, I think, and was somewhat below her best. I mean, she snatched in the mid-80s at this point, and I think she did 109 even at a competition a couple of months ago in the clean and jerk, and she was still able to take the second place. And then taking gold in that category, and worth remembering as well, Jordan Dela Cruz, who is going to the Olympics for the USA in the 49s, wasn't there. She holds the US record at 200 kilos. But at 183 kilos in the total from Garage Strength, we had Hayley Reichard. She went 80-103, took the gold from Madison by a kilo. Then at number 4, maybe some of you will be surprised to see, we have Kate Nye. I think some people would maybe expect her to be a little bit higher, purely because she's on the Olympic team. But again, she didn't have the best day, and the people who maybe went ahead of her had their best day. So Kate Nye competing in the 76 kilo category, and weighing a good kilo under the max that she can be in that category. She was below 75 kilos. She snatched 105 and she clean and jerked 135. Let's take a quick look at that video. She said, "I won my second national championship today. I'd be lying if I said I had the day I wanted, but that's okay." For those of you who are wondering what that blue, it looks like a 2 kilo plate on the side. It's for tracking velocity and presumably some other metrics. It was for the Olympic squad, so not everyone lifted with it, but that's not 139 kilos. That thing weighs about 200 kilos, 200 grams, and is just on one side. So again, the lift looked pretty easy. She's done this kind of weight in training pretty regularly at the moment under Spencer Arnold, within complexes even. So I think she's still going to do significantly better than this come Tokyo. Then at number 3 in terms of Sinclair, and this is Kate's teammate now, we had Jesse Stamo. Again, if you want to check out a podcast we've done with Jesse Stamo, you can find that at weightliftinghouse.com. Jesse went 110, 140, which was an incredible performance for her. Easily a new personal record in the total. Very few women now in the USA who can clean and jerk 140 kilos or more. Historically, it's almost never happened except for that super heavyweight category, but it's now beginning to happen more and more frequently. Jesse went 110, 140, 250 kilo total, 287.57 Sinclair. Then at number 2, and again, I'm hugely excited to see this, Meredith Alwyn. You can check out multiple podcasts that we've done with her. She went 105, 134, and she did it at 71. So once again, Meredith Alwyn has shown that she's actually one of, if not in the top 2 or 3 weightlifters in the country on the women's side. She did actually qualify for the Olympics. Well, she was in a qualifying spot, but the USA qualified so many people that they had to pick and choose who were the best, who's highest in the qualification rankings, and it just turned out that Meredith didn't get it, but I'd place good money on her making it in 2024. If weightlifting is even in the Olympics, which at this point, I'm not even so sure it will be. And then at number 1, and I'm sure you guys saw this was a staggeringly impressive performance. This might be, I'd have to look this up, we could do some research on this, run some stats. This might even be the best performance from an American weightlifter ever by Sinclair. I'd be interested to know. In fact, Dan, do you want to run that? So Matty Rogers, she got a 297 Sinclair.
Female Sinclair is American best ever.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the person who might rival it would be Jordan De La Cruz 200 at 49. So if you can just check between Jordan's 200 and Matty Rogers' she got 297. So I'll get back to you shortly with the answer to that. Matty went 112, American record snatch. She then hit 140 on a second attempt clean and jerk, which again was an American record in the total, and then hit 143, which was a new American record, clean and jerk and total. So 3 American records, 4 really, because a couple of total ones. Amazing day, 255 kilo total, 297 Sinclair. Let's take a look at that one as well. Okay, here's a video of her snatches. Again, she's got that blue velocity tracker. There's the 105. Looks very routine. There's Bruce Clemens in the back, absolute legend. That I think is 109. We just can't see the blue. And then this is 112, American record snatch. And that is, as far as I know, that's a personal record for her in the snatch. Side by side, all look identical. I mean, she gets progressively further forward on the foot, but that's just a feature of Matty's lifting at this point. Doesn't really seem to cause any problems. She's still smashing lifts. And yeah, every lift there is pretty much identical. Over to the clean and jerk now. So this 143 is huge because we've seen Matty try 140 in competition. I think she even cleaned it in 2019 at Worlds, and it was a very tough clean. She wasn't able to make the jerk. So then to see that she's now added 3 kilos, and the way that she caught that clean was one of the most impressive saves ever. It may not have looked like the most impressive, but to be doing that with such heavy weight is ridiculous. She came totally up on her toes. I don't know how she came back down on the heels and then found the strength to get up from the clean and then found the strength to throw it overhead. I mean, it was an incredibly gutsy performance. Who knows, maybe if she pulls it better, 145 might be possible in Tokyo. You just never know. Okay, so it turns out that that's not the best Sinclair from a US weightlifter. There have been some others. Okay, over to the men's side. Let's do a top 10 again. So at number 10, Ryan Sesto, who I've been watching a lot over the last few months. He's absolutely ridiculous. Got an extremely strong pull. Came over from CrossFit and is doing very well. He's been snatching 160 pretty consistently. He just went 156, 196 at 102. So he weighed 100.75. And 352 kilos in the total. And number 9 is one of my good friends. I'm extremely proud of him here. Bo Brown, right out of Heartland Strength, competed in the 89 kilo category, dropped from 96 for this competition. He snatched 147, he clean and jerked 187. You'll have seen him on the people's lifts before. He's cleaned 200 kilos, he's jerked 200 kilos. He's an absolute freak. He used to be a wrestler. One of the best mindsets for weightlifting and techniques I've ever seen in person. He ended up with a 334 kilo total to win that 89 kilo category. Then at number 8, we have the young freak. We have Hampton Morris. He's technically unaffiliated, but he trains with his dad. And he just was sensational. 61 kilo weightlifter, weighed 61.00, which is ridiculous. 17 years old, 117 snatch, 154 clean and jerk, 271 total, and he's looking at a 390 Sinclair. Then we move over to Garage Strength. So Garage Strength again making the top 10, this time on the men's side. We have Jacob Horst, 67 kilo lifter, 132, 160. His teammate, also 67 kilo lifter, Jordan Wissinger, was in 5th place. So 7th and 5th for the 267s from Garage Strength. Jordan went 130, 163. So 1 kilo over Jacob Horst in the total, which he just did the dirty on him, which is savage. In between those two, actually then at number 6 is the Olympian or future Olympian, soon to be Olympian, Kane Wilkes, super heavyweight, also unaffiliated, weighing 151 kilos in body weight, which is ginormous. 176 snatch, 218 clean and jerk, 394 total. Up then in number 4 now we have Ryan Grimsland from, it doesn't say where he's from, but he's a MASH elite lifter, or now I suppose he lifts for Lenoir Ryan. I'm not sure if they're an affiliated club yet, but he lifts with Travis Mash. 67 also, he took the dub in that 67 kilo category. 133 snatch for the lead, 163 clean and jerk, which gave him a 296 kilo PR total. Now we enter the top 3. CJ Cummings took 3rd. I think what's most impressive about this is that he took 3rd and he didn't really do a whole lot. Like, he really didn't try to lift particularly heavy weights. He opened very light. He just wanted to go 6 for 6, and he's still able to beat most other people. Okay, so let's take a quick look at CJ's lifts. This is a 140 snatch. So he went 130, 135, 140. I mean, 140 is a weight that he will probably hit in the back room in Tokyo before coming out for his opener at like 145. So this really was a light competition for him. In the clean and jerk, 165, 170. This is 175. Again, he's probably going to come out in Tokyo at around 180. So I imagine he was almost practicing his final 3 pre-competition lifts in the back room, just getting a rhythm for it, getting a feel for it, getting another national championship title under his belt, and still, lifting 30 kilos below what he probably can in the total. He was still able to take the 3rd highest Sinclair on the men's side. And then one of the things I was most excited about, Westkits didn't turn up in the 109s, and then Ian Wilson, out of the blue, hasn't competed in 4 years, said, hold my beer, and he came out and he took the gold medal. So pleased to see Ian do so well. He snatched 175 kilos, which is 2 kilos over his old 105 American record of 173 that he did at like 19 or 20 years of age. It's been 4, 5, 6 years, maybe 6 years since he even hit that 173. He's had so many injuries, and he was able to come back. He hit 175 for a gold medal in the snatch, which, that's basically rivaling what Westkits is able to hit on a good day in competition. He then clean and jerked 205. I messaged Ian, I said, well done. He said he was really pleased about the snatch. He said the jerks just weren't there that day. So I guess there's more in the clean and jerk for him. In fact, looking at his lifts, it looks like he opened at 170, which is so gutsy, and then missed it, and then hit it on his second, 175 in his third. Opened at 205, missed it, made it on his second. Let's look at it now. That's pretty strong, pretty easy. Let's pull up his snatch quickly because it was an absolutely amazing lift. Barely held onto it. Here we go. 175. Gets under. Classic Ian Wilson pull. Barely any height. A lot of speed. A lot of aggression. And he's under it. And you can see how pleased he is. I can't imagine what it must be like to come back after so many years of injury, thinking that you're never going to be able to lift again at quite a high level, and then beat your all-time best from when you were training full-time, basically following this brutal Bulgarian system, and then hit that. So huge shout out to Ian, and hopefully he'll be on the podcast with me soon. And then finally, the number 1 spot from the USA, from Power and Grace, who I think won the team on the women's side and then placed top 3 maybe on the men's side. We have Harrison Maris, another Olympian who we're going to see in a couple of weeks in Tokyo. 21 years of age, 81 kilo category, snatch 155, which is pretty good for Harrison. I know that he wants to hit 160 in competition at some point, but that will come. But 155 is a nice lift for him. 195 in the clean and jerk, again, it's a pretty good lift for him. I know that, again, he'll want something around 200 in Tokyo, but 95 is great. That's a 350 kilo total. He'll probably be looking for something closer to 360 come Tokyo, but again, he took the gold medal in that 81 kilo category and the highest Sinclair on the men's side in the USA at 426. Okay, let's get to some of the biggest lifts outside of the USA Nationals this week from around the world. Now, there haven't actually been that many shown. As we approach major competitions, athletes tend to post less and less. Either they don't want their competition to know, or their coaches and governing body tell them not to because they don't want other coaches and governing bodies to know. So there isn't a huge amount, but we do have some more from Lash Talakadze, Thankfully, he's blessed us with some more big lifts and a few other athletes. So let's go through those now. The first person I want to talk about is Cyril Thatchett from the UK. He's going to be on the refugee team, and he just competed at the British Virtual Championships. I think for some reason he wasn't able to make what was essentially the Commonwealth qualifiers. But he lifted really well. He snatched 160, which is 5 kilos more than he's ever hit sort of in his home gym. He's done 160, I think he's done 160 plus in competition, but 160 is a personal record there for him. And then 190 in the clean and jerk, he's certainly capable of 200. So that was a great day for Cyril. Over now to Georgia, let's just jump into the lasher stuff. He snatched 205 kilos, no foot, so no foot movement for 5 singles. Now, to be able to no foot 90% is pretty decent. It shows a lot of technical strength there. 5 singles at 205 is ridiculous. I filmed him doing 200 for a no foot, and that basically broke my mind when I saw it. So to be able to do more than that now for reps is huge. Then more impressively, he did 210 kilos for a double, and not only did he do it for a double, he did it for 3 doubles. So both Lasher and Dr. Georgie, shout out again to Dr. Georgie, posted this video on Instagram. Okay, let's watch this one more time. So very easy on his first, and a solid lift on a second. I mean, if he doesn't open at 210 kilos in Tokyo, I'll be very surprised. I could even see him pushing closer towards 215 kilos, which would just be mental. Or maybe he'll take it light for his opener, light, like 210, more than anyone else has ever opened with, just to guarantee the gold. Because the last thing he wants is to open too heavy in search of a 500 kilo total and then end up not even placing and not getting the gold medal, which is extremely unlikely, but you never know. He then did a 200 kilo clean pull plus power clean plus jerk. It's just interesting. I mean, we all know that he can do these sorts of numbers, but it's just interesting seeing him power clean that kind of weight. And literally as we're talking, a new video has come up. It's a 195 power clean plus, let's see, push presses it once and push presses it twice, and apparently he did this 3 times. So Dr. Georgie again with the videos, power clean plus 2 push press at 195. These are ridiculous numbers. These are probably what he's doing on his lower stress days, in between the heavy days, this kind of thing, the 200 pull power clean jerk or the 195 power clean push presses. This is light training for Lasher. Let's stick with Georgia just very quickly. Rezi Davitadze, the 89 kilo world medalist, 200 kilos in the clean and jerk. Now he's not going to be in Tokyo because he's an 89. There is no 89 kilo category, and he hasn't done the required 96 or 81 kilo competitions. Plus, if he did do the 96s, he still wouldn't beat Pliesnoy. But Davitadze, 200 clean and jerk, then a 155 double. Speaking of Anton Pliesnoy, here's a 165 double. I'm not even sure where that 170 snatch is that I saw, but let's take a quick look at this. Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's no foot. I mean, there's a little bit of movement, there's sort of rotation. He goes from more foot forward to a more slightly externally rotated foot position. He did also post a video of Mezo Hisona, who is training in Georgia at the moment with a very easy 210 kilo clean and jerk, which could well be an opener for Mezo. I wouldn't be surprised if, this competition is, as we know, this is Mezo's to lose. He's probably not going to win the snatch portion, but he'll be in and amongst them. But he's got the strength to demolish everybody in the clean and jerk. He may open around 210, get a lift in. It's going to guarantee him at least a bronze medal with that opener in the total, I would have thought. And then he can start making bigger jumps for silvers or golds. Over in Uzbekistan, we saw a 300 kilo back squat from Ruslan Nuruddinov, the clean and jerk world record holder. And then in Italy, we saw Giorgia Bordignon, who's going to be competing at the 64 kilo category, which is now maybe the most exciting, or one of the most exciting categories on the women's side. I know a lot of people are disappointed that we're not going to see Deng Wei, we're not going to see a few elite athletes, Loredana Toma Loredana, and the North Korean, but it does mean that we're going to see quite a good battle from some of their athletes. Giorgia Bordignon hit 142 in the front squat. She's clearly shaping up well for Tokyo. This fly has just landed perfectly on my finger, which is strange. Next, let's move over to Jhonatan Rivas. This is some sad news. So, as I mentioned, I think maybe last week, we're going to go into more depth on this during this episode. Colombia reached some kind of deal with the ITA, basically. Instead of losing all 8 athletes, and quite how they're able to haggle and bet on this type of thing, I don't know. To me, it feels like they lose some level of credibility by doing this sort of thing. But they've come to an agreement that instead of sending 8 or sending none, they're going to only be able to send 3. So they've removed 5 of the Colombians from the Olympics, and they're going to take just 3. I assumed Jhonatan Rivas was going to be safe. He's a 180 snatcher. He's a 210 to 215 clean and jerker. He's certainly someone who's very likely to get a medal in Tokyo in that 96 kilo category, but it looks like Colombia haven't sent him. This is a quote from Jhonatan Rivas's Instagram. "This will be one of the hardest nights of my life. I thank God to all who supported me in the 7-year process, to all those Colombians who wanted to resonate with me during my participation in Tokyo, to my family, to my coach. Unfortunately, today I have to inform you that I will not be at the most important sporting event in the world. Still, I will continue to work hard to fulfill my dreams and leave the name of my country high. All my support, strength, and best energy to my colleagues who will be representing us in Tokyo." So once again, devastating news to hear that an athlete is taking the fall for what is most likely a corrupt nation, a corrupt governing body. But, you know, these are just sort of the casualties that we can only expect to see as the sport hopefully moves towards a slightly cleaner future. And then the only other thing that I want to talk about before I get into some of these other stories, and this is basically because of this whole Colombia situation, is that they also didn't select Lady Solis, who I thought they may well do. So that means that if Lady Solis isn't going, it opens up another slot in that 87 kilo category. So we're going to see Emily Muskett, who some of you will remember as Emily Godley, but now Emily Muskett from Great Britain, is going to be going. So now Great Britain is sending 4 women to Tokyo, which is the most incredible turnout we've seen from GB. So the team is going to be Zoe Smith, 59, Sarah Davies, 64, Emily Muskett, 87, and Emily Campbell, plus 87. Okay, we now have 5 news stories to get through. All of these, I'm going to kind of do the TLDRs. If you want to learn more about them, head over either to weightliftinghouse.com or to insidethegames.biz, where either Dan or Brian Oliver have been writing about these. Brian has stuff in more detail. We kind of, again, we do the TLDRs on some of these. Also, before I carry on, Emily Muskett is not an 87, she's a 76. My bad. Okay, let's talk about the IWF Congress. So the long-awaited IWF Constitutional Congress happened last week, and to my despair, to everybody's despair, it basically ended without very much at all being agreed upon, and seemingly we are still as a sport a really long way away from a new constitution. For a change to be adopted, you essentially need a 60% majority of the voting power to vote for something. Unfortunately, the Congress was split roughly 50-50 between one side, who we could call the reformists, which is led by the USA, China, Great Britain. Who else would be on that, Dan? Most of Western Europe, quite a few other countries. And then on the other side, we have the so-called old guard, who currently control the IWF executive board, who have resisted changes to how the federation works. And on that side, we would see a lot of the Eastern European countries, a few Asian countries, and also a fair few African countries too. The executive board has now decided that a new constitution will not be agreed upon before the Olympic Games, which has prompted more criticism, more tellings off basically by the IOC. So this is yet another blow to the chances of weightlifting staying in the Olympics. Just on a personal note, when I first read about this from Brian on Inside the Games, I felt I was kind of just seething, just the fact that this is still going ahead. I don't know if there's a way that we as a group, as a community, can make a difference. If people have an idea, just let me know, drop me a message, comment. I will check all the comments. But if there's something that we as a group of what is now tens of thousands of fans of the sport can do to change the minds of these people, we should do it. I'm not sure there's anything we can do to change the minds of these people who are so stuck in their ways and who are so hell-bent on destroying the sport for their own personal gain. But if people have any ideas, do let me know. Okay, next piece of news is Agapitov from Russia has become the European Weightlifting Federation interim president. So Maxim Agapitov, the president of Russian Weightlifting Federation, has taken over as interim president of the European Weightlifting Federation. As we reported previously, the job was recently vacated by Hassan Akus. I mentioned this last week because of his corruption with Turkish weightlifting. So he's been forced to step aside amid this corruption scandal. Now, since taking over as the head of the Russian Weightlifting Federation in 2016, Agapitov has sought to present himself as a reformer. And to be fair, I know a lot of people's first thoughts will be, how can we have a Russian in charge of this sort of stuff, considering what Russia have been doing over the last few decades, maybe since the inception of the sport almost. It does look actually as though Agapitov is doing some good things. He's spoken out about the need to rebuild the Russian system and has often sided with other national federations to call for change at the IWF, instead of maybe just fitting in with the current old guard. There has been some friction between him and USA Weightlifting, though. He apparently criticized USA Weightlifting after it called for him to step down from his IWF position, and he's opposed a change to the IWF constitution that would bar him from office due to a doping sanction of his own from the 1990s. I feel like that's actually maybe not fair from USA Weightlifting.
The idea that there was anybody in the 1990s that wasn't there.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know if you guys could hear that. Dan was basically saying that there is a current rule that if you served a ban within the last 10 years, you can't be on the executive board. Maybe there's some sense there. But the idea that someone can serve their time from a doping sanction from the 90s and still not be allowed to help the sport, bearing in mind that, you know, you'd find it hard to find an athlete from the 80s, 70s, 90s who wasn't on some kind of drugs, to be honest, and then to assume that they now have nothing to offer for the future of weightlifting, I don't think is okay. I don't think you should be labelled with something that you did one time and never be able to change from that. But anyway, that's the situation with him and Russian weightlifting. Next news story, we have Iran's first female weightlifter at the Olympics. Now, we've been following the progress of female weightlifting in Iran over the last couple of years, following on from being allowed to compete nationally and traveling to international competitions. In fact, I think I saw the first Iranian women's team ever at an international competition in 2019. I think they turned up for the first time. So since then, now an Iranian woman will feature at the Olympic Games in weightlifting for the first time, which is a huge step up and progress in the right direction. Bear with me as I try and get this name right. Parissa Jahanfekrian will get the chance to compete in the women's plus 87 kilo category due to Samoa withdrawing all of their home-based athletes. So she is unlikely to be a medal contender, but will be aiming to improve on her career best 202 total. Now, speaking of this is something we haven't mentioned. Samoa is not going to be sending their athletes to the Olympics if they're currently at home in Samoa. I don't know if that counts for Don Opelege from the 96s, so let's just take a look at him, because he is an athlete that I really would like to see in that 96 kilo category. He has been withdrawn, so there are no Samoan weightlifters, so they must all be training at home. So again, there's another 96 kilo weightlifter who is not going to be in Tokyo. But have no fear, I still think Tokyo is going to be absolutely incredible. I'm going to be doing commentary, by the way, at Tokyo. Not there, but here. We're going to set up a little studio. We're going to have some guests on to talk with me. We're going to do commentary over all of the sessions. But that 96 kilo session will still be amazing. I mean, we've still got Yoheni Tsikantsu, who I think, or in fact, his name is Evgeny Tsikantsu, I think is how you pronounce it. He, I think, is the underdog. He could actually take the gold medal. But then there's Mezzo Hisona, there's Anton Plesnoy, there are loads of great 96s, Bodhi Santavi, so we will still see a phenomenal session. Okay, the penultimate story now. Arley Mendez, the 81 kilo weightlifter, the 85 kilo 2017 world champion, he beat Rostami, didn't he? He has just been popped for smoking weed or cannabis. So Chile's Arley Mendez may not be allowed to compete at the Olympics. He has tested positive for cannabis following the South American and Ibero-American Open in May. So, while recreational drugs like cannabis are on the prohibited list, they can attract a shorter suspension if the athlete can show that there was no performance-enhancing intent. However, even so, a 3-month ban would rule Mendes out of Tokyo, and that is supposed to be the lowest punishment for a failed in-competition test. So, I think we may not see Arley Mendez in Tokyo. I guess the question then comes to, will anybody take his spot? If somebody does take a spot, it's going to be Alex Bellemare from Canada, but because the IOC has essentially closed off the acceptance of spots for the Olympics, it may be that he's not able to get in, which strikes me as exceedingly unfair. If someone has qualified fairly because someone else has been popped for something they shouldn't be doing, that person, in my opinion, should be able to go. But, you know, there are rules guarding Tokyo and guarding the Olympics, which aren't, you know, so permeable all the time. So whether or not we see Alex, I do not know, but I'll update you guys on that next episode. And then finally, and I mentioned this earlier, this is to do with the Colombian team getting a reduction in spots. So the Colombian Weightlifting Federation has agreed a deal with the ITA, the International Testing Agency, which will see them having some reduced representation in Tokyo. The deal will apparently resolve the long-running case surrounding multiple test failures by Colombian athletes. So in a compromised agreement, I suppose, Colombia will be able to take 1 woman and 2 men to the Olympic Games, which will be a really large reduction from the 4 and 4 who qualified. Also, they were one of 3 countries to qualify the maximum 8 slots for the Olympics. China and the USA were the other 2, so now they're not it. So it's just going to be China and the USA. Oh, and South Korea. Okay, so there were 4. So for everyone who always says how USA is just not a powerhouse in weightlifting, they really are. Like, times have changed. USA has an enormous amount of influence. That's the word I'm looking for. They have a lot of influence in the sport of weightlifting these days. So the removal of some of the Colombians will bring opportunities for other athletes. So British weightlifting have already announced that Emily Godley, like I mentioned earlier, will gain her place as a 76 kilo weightlifter, presumably because Colombia have confirmed that they will not be sending Lady Solis. Okay, so that is the end of this week's episode, but we are going to do a very quick people's lifts. Now, before we do, a quick reminder, if you're a gym looking to capitalize on the influx of weightlifting fans that are going to come up just because of the Olympics, then send us a message because we're going to do some really elite deals on our elite barbells. The reviews so far are amazing. You can check out the specs at weightliftinghouse.com. Obviously, if you're just an athlete training at a gym or training in a garage, you can also still get these elite bars. But if you're a gym owner, we're really looking to help and support you guys over this Olympic period to capitalize on the number of eyeballs that are going to be on our sport. Also, this episode is, of course, brought to you by the Weightlifting House wrist strap, so I'll put a link down below if you want to get a pair of these. They are, without a doubt, the greatest, the strongest, the most supportive, the most durable weightlifting wrist straps in the world, and I genuinely mean that. Okay, let's kick off the People's Lifts. Obviously, if you want to be in the People's Lifts, by the way, hashtag the People's Lifts on Instagram, and I will find you. We have Sergey Putsov, a longtime friend and fan of Weightlifting House. He did a 110 kilo block snatch. I commented on it and he made sure to reply to my comment with the People's Lifts, and I feel like I can't leave him hanging there. That would just be not okay as a friend. So Sergey, congratulations. It's not quite the, I think he said to me that he snatched 165 in training, 163 in competition, maybe block snatch 170. So it's not quite the 170 block snatch from back in the day from Sergey, but it's still pretty decent. He also doesn't weigh 96 anymore. He's got to be in the mid-80s these days. So solid work from Sergey in Ukraine. Next we have a 55 kilo weightlifter from the Netherlands, Marloes SC. Now I hope I haven't pronounced this incorrectly. I probably have. Marloes, Marlouse SC for, I guess, strength and conditioning on Instagram. So this was her first competition in the last 18 months, and she went 3 for 3 in the snatch, 68, 71, 73. Missed 82 clean and jerk, missed 83 clean and jerk, then had the guts to jump up, go to 85, and she made it. Tremendous technique, a power jerker also. Kind of power jerks a little bit like David Bazanian, but the pull and the snatch look certainly nicer than David Bazanian's do. And just, you can tell from that final lift, so much love, so much hype for the sport. Fantastic lifting. So shout out to Marloes from the Netherlands. Next we have Holly Alice Louise. She's a 63 kilo weightlifter. She weighed 62.8. Wait, 63? That's not a category anymore. That's the old category. It's got to be 64. A light 64. Redemption at the virtual British Championships. She went 6 for 6. 56, 58, 60 in the snatch. 77, 79, 81 in the clean and jerk. That's a 141 kilo PR in the total. And once again, just really excellent, sharp technique. And nothing better than getting a PR total at a proper competition, I suppose. Holly Alice Louise on Instagram, by the way, HOLLYALICE LOUISE. Next we have Luda Michael James, LUDA Michael James, 182 kilos, that's 400 pounds on the clean and jerk, and he made it look like a snack. The clean was maybe a little bit tough, the jerk remarkably easy for such a tough clean. Brilliant lifting from him. I guess he's one of those people who's now over the 90% boundary for 200 kilo clean and jerk. So if you want to watch that journey, head over to Luda Michael James on Instagram. Guys, that is absolutely everything. Head over to weightliftinghouse.com for all of your equipment, clothing, and reading needs. We've got a load of cool stuff over there. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube and the Instagrams and the podcast, and we'll catch you all on another episode of the Weightlifting House News Show.